Quick note, I'll be in San Francisco doing a real estate crash course in a few weeks, and the 23% off coupon code has been extended to October 31st. See you there. Today, we're talking about the scam that could crush the economy and markets. Then we'll be talking about Robert Schiller and his opinion on the Trump effect. We'll then move on to talking about stocks and India as well as China. And of course, we'll be talking about fish. I'm sorry, it says burgers. We'll be talking about Impossible Burgers and Beyond Meat. We'll also touch on some realtor advice for millennials by reacting to a video, and we'll be talking credit card bits. Let's get into it on today's Meet Kevin Report, because after all, this is news that makes you money. First things first, if you don't know anything about annotations, know that all of this scribbling and highlighting is what I call annotating. And it's what I do when I get really passionate about an article, especially when it looks like there's a scam happening in the marketplace. Before we actually dive into the article, let's do a quick little explanation on what this is all about. There is a market for what are known as ratings. And the way that works is, let's say you have a few investment options. Like, let's say here, you've got the travel section of the New York Times. Let's just pretend this is a group of 500 mortgages. And these we're gonna rate BBB. Then let's go ahead and take some of these LA Times 500 mortgages, and these are rated CC+, and let's go ahead and put them in the same bundle. And then let's go ahead and add some in here. These are gonna be negative BBB rated. And then at the top of this bundle of basically junk, we're gonna go ahead and put these AAA rated, fancy, full color printed mortgages. And then we're gonna bundle this all up together nicely. And instead of individually selling the crap, we're gonna make the crap smell better with these beautifully printed AAA rated bonds. And then we're gonna go ahead and sell little pieces of the whole kit and caboodle together. And now we could rate the entire kit and caboodle AAA rated. So when little mortgage-backed security investors in Sweden want to buy some crap, they can buy some crap. Except the problem is they won't know that they're buying crap because the rating agencies get paid usually by the companies that they're rating. This would be like me saying, please go on Yelp and review my business. I will pay you for your efforts. Oh, and keep in mind, I have more money the better my business does to keep calling you back and continue rating me. Wink, wink. According to the Financial Crisis Inquiry Report, this was one of the top reasons for the last mortgage meltdown. And look at the expose that we have today by the Wall Street Journal. Without getting too extreme, the Wall Street Journal analyzed ratings by the ratings agencies Moody's and Standard & Poor's, which is not only the stock market index, it is also a company that will sell you ratings. And ratings for companies such as Newell and Kraft Heinz and Campbell Soup have maintained investment grade ratings despite their debts quadrupling, or in some cases being as high as 6 times earnings. Now, Moody's and Standard & Poor's defend their ratings for these companies with ballooning debt, but only when approached by the Wall Street Journal with data to say, hey folks, y'all realize that you've miscalculated data on a lot of these companies that you're using to keep ratings high. Did the company say, oh yeah, oops, looks like we gotta fix some of our mistakes, but you know what, don't worry, that was just a mistake. Meanwhile, throughout the rest of the article from the Wall Street Journal, we learn, oh, well, wait a minute. Even when these companies' debt balloons, the rating agencies are motivated to say things like, hey, you know what? Hang in there, y'all. We'll give you 2 years to get your act together, and then we'll re-rate you at that time. Meanwhile, they keep a solid and strong rating, deceiving bond investors. Now, I know a lot of us might not care so much about bonds, but this is another massive red flag, and this is something we should absolutely be paying attention to. Moving on to the next topic. Yale professor and Nobel Prize winning economist Robert Shiller has come out and said that he believes that Donald Trump has a good chance of being reelected. But not only does he say that, he says there's something known as the Trump effect. He starts off by saying, hey, you know what? We had this whole debacle regarding the yield curve and the economy probably going to blow up because of the yield curve, yet that ended up turning out to be a dud. And he refers to the Trump effect as part of the reason why the markets might continue marching on. In fact, he suggests that it's quite possible a democratically elected president could severely affect the markets negatively. However, Donald Trump's enthusiasm, like him or not, has bolstered, possibly artificially, a lot of confidence in the marketplaces and kept markets strong despite this overwhelming current of information on slowdowns and overall negativity. This belief is reiterated by an article like this one by William Watts of MarketWatch, who says that people are extremely risk adverse right now with a ton of money on the sidelines. So it's very difficult for the market to have a real extreme move to the downside and stay down with so much money on the sidelines. In other words, because money has sort of been leaving equities and leaving the market, every time the market dips down, people with money on the sidelines jump in, which is pretty much exactly what I teach you to do in the real estate investing course. Obviously, there's a whole lot more in that course, which you should check out the link down below. I have extended the 23% off coupon 10x the fish to October 31st because there's nothing more scary than somebody coming up to you and saying, bro, I got fish. Now, in all seriousness, I do recommend buying stocks on red days, and I recommend negotiating real estate on red days. Obviously, there's much more to this, but this is very interesting. Not only this, but we find that the volatility indices right now are actually lower than we would expect them to be for October, which is oftentimes a historically volatile month. That may be because there's so much money looking for buying opportunities. Now, beyond this, I'm also going to add that one of the reasons I personally like the US stock market is when you look macro and you go global, the US stock market looks like it has some pretty nice opportunities in it because you can buy into companies for relatively inexpensive prices. Now you could even buy in with fractional share investing, like you can buy pieces of Amazon stock if you can't afford a whole stock through Charles Schwab and other website investment options. And the biggest thing for this is, hey, if you want your money to be in a safe place, would you rather today invest in a foreign country and speculate, or would you rather put your money into the safety of a company like, let's say, whether like them or not, Microsoft or Amazon? Now, on the note of foreign countries, here's a Wall Street Journal article which suggests that India is doing its best to lure over companies to India from China thanks to the China-US trade war, which honestly is freaking brilliant. Think about that for a moment. This is literally like a middle school rebound relationship where US and China are having a little bit of a temporary breakup, and India goes, look at me, I'm available and I'm fun. And it looks like Samsung has already agreed to build their largest facility in India to produce their products from China. And Apple is now in talks with India to possibly manufacture their iPhones in India. That at the same time as CNBC reporting that the IMF sees growth in China dropping easily below 6% in 2020. Gone are the days of 8 to 10% growth, and mostly again because of that famous US-China trade war, because that just seems precarious these days. Moving on over to meat, we have the Impossible Whopper driving big sales over at Burger King. This is despite the fact that a separate company, don't confuse these, separate company, but this is despite the fact that Beyond Meat is having some issues with its stock. Despite the massive rally that we saw this summer in Beyond Meat stock, where the value almost quadrupled from somewhere just above $50 upwards of $220, the stock has come down almost 50%, or actually just over 50% since its peak on July 26th. Now, while a lot of the negativity around Beyond Meat might be due to the fact that people were overly optimistic, it does seem as though plant-based meats are here to stay, with more and more companies introducing plant-based products at their fast food stores and restaurants. In fact, I recently went to Dave & Buster's because there's nothing like hitting the clowns with a red ball to the face at Dave & Buster's, and they too are trying to sell me an Impossible Burger. At least they're not trying to sell me something else. Moving on, I want to blow through these 9 myths about credit scores, and while you might know some of these, I challenge you to ask yourself, do you know all 9? Myth number 0, because I mislabeled these and I'm just gonna roll with it. Myth number 0 is that checking my credit score hurts my credit score, and the article goes on to suggest that checking your credit score could actually help your credit score because you'll be much more aware of your credit score. Next one, if I pay my bills on time, that's all I needed to worry about. But the article goes on to say, no, utilization is actually one of the most important components of your credit score, and they recommend that you stay under a 30% utilization. This means if you have a $10,000 credit limit between, let's say, 5 credit cards, you should spend no more than $3,000 or carry no more than a $3,000 balance on these cards. Obviously, I recommend you don't carry a balance at all, and if you do not yet have a credit card, you should get yourself the Apple credit card. And no, this is not sponsored. The Apple credit card is just known for approving people with credit scores as low as 570. And if you need to build your score, there's nothing like an unsecured credit card to help you do that. Just make sure to pay the darn thing off every single month. The next myth is that carrying a balance might help your credit score. 22% of consumers who said they carried a balance did so mistakenly, believing that that would help their credit score. Oh, and in case you're wondering, this article is from the Wall Street Journal, so don't sue me. It's in their Wealth Management Journal report. Moving on, opening a new retail credit card is good for your score. That is a myth. Move on, and it should sound pretty obvious, doesn't really matter if it's retail or not. Closing a credit card with a high interest rate will help my score, and in fact, we know that closing your credit cards, especially ones you have a good history on, can shorten the overall longevity of your remaining accounts, erasing your good payment record from the closed account. Quote from the Wall Street Journal. Next myth, it hurts my credit score to do comparison shopping for mortgage or auto loans, but the reality is that the scoring models assume you're going through the shopping process. And you guessed it, it is something I talk about in the real estate investing course as well, because one thing that people realize when they join the real estate investing course, a link below, is they open their minds up to, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize this was a thing. So for example, let's say you go to 4 different lenders in the span of 2 weeks shopping for a home loan. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, I have now had my credit hard inquired 4 different times, but the credit rating agencies, hashtag don't sue me bro if I'm wrong, but I believe, and this article reiterates that the credit reporting agencies bundle that together and lump it together as one inquiry rather than 4, because they assume you're actually being a savvy credit user and you're shopping for the best possible deal. Moving on to the next myth, the older my unpaid debt, the more it hurts me. The article goes on to say that aside from bankruptcy, the age of your debt really has little to do with your score. The next myth is that credit reports are accurate, and they find that as many as 5% of people actually have information that is so wrong on their credit reports that could easily be fixed, which again merits you checking your credit score, that they end up paying larger fees when it's time to take out a loan like a home mortgage, which I recommend you all take out that 30-year fixed rate loan. Then I was really surprised by this one. Selecting credit while using your debit card for a purchase is good for your credit score. Obviously not. A debit card, I mean, I don't even know why this is a myth, but I guess it is. A debit card does not report, usually at least, and I've never found one that does, but hey, don't sue me. A debit card does not report to credit bureaus, so you shouldn't be gaining any kind of score by using credit as the option when you go to check out with your debit card. Makes no difference. And then just for giggles, if you want to pause the video and check out this chart as far as the impact that different actions you take has on your credit, here's an excellent chart for you, such as has an inquiry about a new loan would result in a small drop on your credit score, whereas going into a charge-off or foreclosure would result in a major score drop. Take a look at these other impacts. Moving on, Jamie Dimon slams Libra, that is Facebook's cryptocurrency, as a neat idea that will never happen. Thanks, CNBC, for the clickbait. Now let's go ahead and saddle up and react to a realtor's advice to a first-time or many different first-time home buyers.
If you look at it this way, you can also really appreciate how much space there is. My name's Elliot Fuchs, I'm 30 years old, and this is my first home. I chose Newark because I was going to be working here and because buying is prohibitively expensive in New York. I looked at other places in Jersey, and actually the commute didn't make a lot of sense. There's a lot of culture, there's a lot of art. You know, it's no secret that the city has been struggling with issues of poverty and crime for decades, but I'm definitely optimistic about the future of Newark, so.
Two things there from a professional real estate perspective. When you go buy real estate, you should always buy real estate in areas that you are optimistic about. That might sound like a no-brainer, but it's actually not, because there are a lot of people that will buy cheap homes with the theory of, oh, well, I'll just milk the cash flow, and if it goes to crap, great, whatever, it doesn't matter, I've milked the cash flow, and then I'll just walk away in the future. It's a terrible idea for building your wealth. You should always invest in an area that you're optimistic in, and ideally one where the population is growing, as well as keeping your commute to the lowest possible time that you can.
This apartment is 2 full bed, 2 full bath. The amenities include doorman, gym. Just kidding. So the whole condo, I paid $292,000 for it, and this building requires a 20% down payment, which is just shy of $60,000. It took a while of saving.
This is possibly a co-op then, which, just so you know, a co-op is a cooperative where you own shares within the building. If they require 20% down, be careful, because there's a risk that they also do not allow you to rent out the property, which is a huge no-no. Do not buy real estate that you cannot rent out. That is like lesson 1.0 in the real estate investing course when you're qualifying associations.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, Elliot. What's up, brother?
Good to see you. Good to see you.
How are you?
It took like 7 months to find this place and get it. I took a little longer than most of your clients, right?
You put in a lot of offers.
Yep.
Right? You put in a lot of strong offers, but they just didn't go. And that's a hard part that a lot of new clients don't understand. There's a lot of bidding involved. There's a lot of timing involved. But you know what? Like, best comes to those who wait.
A lot of people think that, but realize when it comes to real estate, you make your own meant to be. And the reason I say that is because most of the time when I represent buyers and they miss out on deals, it's because they're not 100% committed to the idea of buying a certain property yet. For example, a really great deal comes up for $450,000 and you know it's worth more. People go, oh, okay, well, can we go $445,000? You ain't gonna get it if it's a good deal. Pay full price or above. And it's these little cases where it's like, well, that seems like a strong offer, and people are manipulating themselves to think they're actually doing something good, when in reality, they could be writing a better offer and really increasing their odds. And I'm not just talking about price either. Terms of your offers matter a lot.
Make sure before you start looking for a home that you get pre-approved for a mortgage. So when you do find something, bang, I want this property, here's my offer, here's my pre-approval, and we can hit the ground running. Make sure that you interview a lot of agents. Find the one that fits you and your personality the most, that you think is going to do the best job for you. Make sure...
Okay, fine. My big thing is find a realtor in the area that you're looking to shop that also invests in real estate. Stop worrying about them competing with you. Find somebody that's knowledgeable about investing.
That the location you're looking in actually has the amenities that you do or don't want. You don't want to pay for things that you don't need. If you don't have children or your children are out of the house, you don't want to move into a very nice school district because your tax is going to be very, very high. When you look...
I disagree with that because you want to make sure that you have a very rentable property as well. And a great school district can sometimes mean that, and higher rents to offset those taxes. And in certain areas, the taxes aren't even any different.
Through any property, you always kind of want to look for structural issues. Don't just look at the paint, don't look at all the flashy things. Actually look at the structural part of the home. You also want to make sure that the home that you're buying is not necessarily a home for today. You always want to look for a home that's good for you from 5 to 10 years from now. Be prepared to act quickly.
All right, I get it. Yeah, I mean, fine, decent advice. I personally don't believe that you need to buy something that you could grow into, because your goal should be buying something that you will grow out of so that you can rent it out and then get another home buyer loan when you move. Best case scenario, you're hopping around. So make sure to check out those courses linked below so you can meet me in the live streams that we do twice a week, where I personally help and mentor you through your real estate. The investing course and sales course are linked below. We'll see you there. Thanks so much for watching.